Developing tonight, the Madison School District spokesperson is facing bullying and harassment allegations, what the criminal complaint reveals.
Plus an update on a massive fire that broke out at the Columbia County Recycling and Waste Center. And
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has extended the deadline for lawmakers and the White House to reach a deal on the nation's debt limit. You're watching News 3 Now at 5. Hundreds of millions of dollars in child care funding was being considered this week at the state capitol.
But it didn't last long, as political reporter Will Keneally joins us live to explain. Will?
That's right. So the plan was floated as part of the powerful budget writing committee's debate over how to attract and retain workers here in Wisconsin. Now, Democrats introduced the plan as part of the Economic Development Agency's budget, but Republican chairs said that they missed the mark.
It's like you made up a number, threw it at the wall so that you could talk about things that you want to talk about. I mean, what in the world is this before us?
The legislature's powerful budget writing committee was in the midst of debating worker retention this week, and Democrats argued childcare should be part of the picture.
I'm at least pleased to hear for the first time from the minority party that they have some interest in talent attraction. This is something that we have been advocating for in the majority party for at least 6 years.
Democrats pushed to give $340 million to the Wisconsin Economic Development Agency over the next 2 years. It wouldn't specifically go to child care, but would be grouped with a pool of money that includes child care incentives for businesses as part of retaining the state's workforce.
I cannot imagine why it would be a good idea to throw $340 million at an agency who up until the last maybe year, I think it's more like months, has done nothing on this.
They also argued the focus should be on the work that the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation does. They will get to the children's and families part of the budget later.
It is critical for the state of Wisconsin that we meet the moment and invest in childcare. That's it. That's our position.
Now, the Budget Writing Committee will return next week, where we expect them to take up a proposal to help fund the NFL draft in Green Bay in 2025. Reporting from the Capitol, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
Will, thank you. Developing now, a newly released complaint accuses the Madison School District spokesperson, Tim Lamons, of bullying, name-calling, and retaliation. The complaint includes a timeline of dozens of incidents where Lamons is accused of bullying fellow coworkers to a point that several cited him as the reason for them leaving the district. Records also outline allegations of him bullying the Madison Police Department's public information officer and calling a journalist in the community, quote, a pig of a journalist. Lamons has denied these allegations. For more details, look at the story at channel3000.com. Well, let's get a look at your first warn forecast for the holiday weekend. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti enjoying an absolutely beautiful day on the patio, Gary.
I was almost going to pull a chair over and just kind of kick back with my feet up, because that's how easy of a forecast it is. But it's also something that everybody's going to be able to enjoy. Visible cloud track, again, hardly a cloud anywhere around the state of Wisconsin. Doppler track, about as dry as you could see it. Within 500 miles of Madison, not seeing any rain at all. Low temperatures this morning, a little cool though. Madison will drop to 37 degrees. Camp Douglas is down to 26, but most areas were in the upper 30s to the lower 40s, just warm enough that frost wasn't too much of an issue. But current temperatures have warmed up nicely away from Lake Michigan. We're in the 70s, mid 70s for the most part, although closer to Lake Michigan, Milwaukee's still at 61 degrees, but out to the west, 78 right now in Boscoville. They were at 32 early this morning, so that dry air warms up very quickly here in Dane County. 74 right now in Oregon, 73 in Deerfield, and 74 in Cross Plains. Look for skies to be mostly clear this evening. Those temperatures dropping off into the middle 50s by late evening. Later on, I'll take a look at the Memorial Day weekend forecast in more detail, but I'll give you a spoiler. It's going to be one you like.
All right, Gary, thank you. Speaking of Memorial Day weekend plans, for many of us means packing up the car and planning for a long drive, usually involving traffic.
That's right. Tahlil Mohadin spoke with officials from the State Patrol and joins us now live along the Beltline. Tahlil, what can drivers expect this Memorial Day weekend?
Eric and Susan, will start with the good news. Because this beautiful weather is expected to stick around, road conditions will be one less thing slowing people down. But there will be at least some backups due to the sheer number of folks that will be on the road. Now, the worst of the traffic on the interstate is going to be heading north off of Madison, especially as you get closer to Wisconsin Dells, the destination for many travelers. Now for State Patrol, the top priority this weekend will be safety. They'll have more officers on the road with details around speed enforcement, OWIs, and the Click It or Ticket initiative. They and other law enforcement agencies will also be on the lookout for anyone stuck. They say it could take a little bit longer to get your car towed, but businesses are planning for that. Still, the best thing you can do is to plan ahead and make sure your car is in good shape before heading out the door.
That's right. Safe travels to everybody out there this weekend. Tahlil, thank you. Boating also is expected, of course, to pick up this weekend. That means officials are extending hours at Tenney Lock on Lake Mendota. That lock provides navigation between Lake Mendota and Monona on the Yahara River chain. Tonight and tomorrow it'll be open 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday it's open from 10 to 10. And then on Memorial Day, the lock will be open from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. Now, something to keep in mind, the lake levels, they are lower than they normally are this time of the year. That's because of some dry weather recently and also low amounts of snow melt this spring.
In terms of on the lake this time of year, we are a little bit lower than we normally are, so just be cautious when you get into areas that are lower. Just careful for your prop and stay in some deeper water if you can.
Now, the remaining two locks, Babcock on Lake Wabisa and La Follette on Lake Kaganza, remain closed because officials don't want lake flow levels to drop any lower.
New at 5, Portage fire officials say many buildings and equipment are a total loss after a massive fire broke out at the Columbia County Recycling and Waste Center. It took firefighters 26 hours to put out that fire that first started Wednesday afternoon. 2 firefighters sustained minor injuries, and it's still unclear what sparked the fire. This was the second fire at this facility this month.
Employees at Starbucks State Street location are voting on whether to unionize in just under a week, and now they say their employer is trying to convince them not to.
Braden Ross spoke to one of the employees organizing the election. Braden, what did he say has been happening at the store?
The representative I spoke to was clear. He thinks what Starbucks is doing is just plain union busting. Shift manager Matthew Cartwright told me ever since they filed to unionize last month, they've seen more upper management in the store than usual. He also says corporate sent in an HR person to have one-on-one conversations with employees about the decision to unionize. Those chats, he says, intimidated workers.
I know benefits were threatened. I know that they tried to pose it as the union would threaten the benefits, as in the union would take away your benefits, but it was very clear it's not what they were really saying. You know, they would say, I know you really rely on this medical care benefit, or I know you really rely on your college benefit. Wouldn't it be a shame if that just went away? Wouldn't that be awful for you?
Cartwright also alleges that when he first started talking about unionizing, his own job was threatened. Now, Starbucks responded to the allegations in a statement saying their partner relations teams regularly visit stores ahead of union elections to help inform workers about voting logistics. They added, quote, Starbucks policy strictly prohibits any retaliatory behavior directed towards partners who are interested in a union.
Braden, thank you. Local volunteers with the American Red Cross are headed to Guam to help the island recover from a typhoon. Much of the island is now without power and drinking water. Some areas, including the airport, are flooded, and several structures have been damaged or destroyed in landslides. A Red Cross disaster program manager says this is the furthest trip she's taken so far.
Responses like this, the idea behind the help we provide is really that care and comfort. The idea to get folks in a place that's safe, warm, a place to put their head, get some, meals in them, have like a quick, medical triage. We don't have physicians, but we have health services volunteers.
If you'd like to help or make a donation, look for the Red Cross link in our story on channel3000.com.
Soccer fans in the Madison area will have another way to watch Forward Madison FC matches for free this year. Television Wisconsin will air a total of 5 matches this season. The games will also be streamed on our website, channel3000.com, and our Channel 3000 Plus streaming app, which is available on all smart TVs and mobile devices and your Roku. For more information and a schedule of the games, check out channel3000.com. President Biden and lawmakers now have until June 5th to reach an agreement on the nation's debt limit. Officials say some progress is being made, but no deal has been reached.
A default would mean dire economic consequences for American households. Karen Kafa has the latest.
Both sides point to progress.
I thought we made progress last night. We got to make more progress now.
We're making progress, and our goal is to make sure that we get a deal because default is unacceptable.
But White House and House Republican negotiators appear to be heading into the Memorial Day weekend without a final deal to raise the nation's debt ceiling.
We are in the middle of a lot of different conversations and a lot of different paper coming back and forth.
House Republicans have used this debt ceiling vote, often a routine act that allows the federal government to keep borrowing money to pay its bills, to force a conversation about government spending cuts. Many Democrats say focus on raising the debt ceiling now and talk about budget later.
It comes time to put the country first, to understand the devastating effect it will have on not just Democrats, but Republicans.
Sources familiar with the negotiations say a potential agreement that emerged late Thursday would involve raising the debt ceiling for 2 years with a cap on federal spending, excluding defense and veteran spending in the same period. A final deal would need to pass the GOP-led House and the Democratic majority Senate quickly. The Treasury Department says there's no plan B to avoid default.
The only plan we have is the one that's worked for more than 200 years in this country, which is the United States of America needs to pay all of its bills and pay them on time.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
A 2-year deal would mean the executive and legislative branches won't have to revisit the subject until after the next presidential election.
And coming up, Gary has our complete weekend forecast.
Plus, we'll head to Washington, D.C. to visit a special exhibit honoring hundreds of thousands of fallen service members. And later, Bratfest makes its triumphant return to Madison. We'll hear from the son of the man who started it all, coming up tonight at 6.
And closing out the week on Wall Street, the Dow surges more than 328 points. The Nasdaq jumps 278. The S&P 500 adds about 54. And we'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
As the nation commemorates Memorial Day this weekend, flags will fly at half-staff across Wisconsin tomorrow in honor of a Navy seaman who was killed during the Pearl Harbor attack. David Joseph Riley of Judah was one of more than 50 Wisconsinites who died in the 1941 attack. He was serving as a Navy seaman second class on the USS Oklahoma. Riley was posthumously awarded a Purple Heart, the American Campaign Medal, and the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal after his remains were identified in 2021. He will be buried with full military honors in Judah tomorrow. And today, WPS Health Solutions hosted its annual Walk to Remember. The event offers employees in the community a chance to honor U.S. service members and veterans who have died. Organizers say it's also a time to reflect on those who made the ultimate sacrifice while protecting and defending our country. The event first began during the COVID-19 pandemic as a way for communities to remember service members while gatherings were limited.
A special exhibit has returned to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. to honor the American service members killed in combat since the First World War. Natalie Brand shows us how visitors are reflecting on the meaning of the holiday.
They can't be here, so I want to do everything I can do to try to be here for them.
This wall shows the size of sacrifice, more than 645,000 poppies, symbolizing the U.S. lives lost in service since World War I.
It's a very somber moment for me. You know, I've placed about 57 coins on caskets that are draped with the American flag. It's very special for me.
Air Force veteran Joe Sluder, now a military affairs representative for the USAA Poppy Wall of Honor, says this year's exhibit also marks 50 years since the U.S. exit from Vietnam, where his father served 2 tours.
I would have loved to be able to walk him through, you know, hand in hand and take him through each of the sections.
Those who can't visit the wall in person can still post a tribute honoring a loved one online using the hashtag #PoppyInMemory, and it will be shared here.
Seeing this wall, you see the numbers put with the different wars and things like that, and it's hard to comprehend.
Visitors say they're struck by how many Americans have died serving.
It's really impressive to see all the history that's out here and think of all the things that they've been done for us.
We have so many that have paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can be free and practice and live in a free world, democratic world. Just don't forget.
Command Chief Master Sergeant Sluder says it's something to remember not just on Memorial Day, but every day. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Let's get a check on the forecast. Boy, I cannot remember, Gary, a time when we had all 3 days of sunshine over Memorial Day weekend. It's great.
The timing on this is perfect. You just can't beat it. 3 things you need to know in our forecast. Look for mild weather, seasonable temperatures today, highs in the middle 70s, and then a beautiful Memorial Day weekend with lots of sunshine, and temperatures will warm up to around 90 by the middle of next week with mainly dry conditions. For Memorial Day itself, I'm looking for Memorial Day weekend, 77 for high tomorrow with mostly sunny skies. Sunday, we'll add a couple of degrees to that, go up to 81, and Memorial Day Monday, 83 with partly sunny skies. Humidity levels will be low and not looking for any rain at all. Low temperatures last night were a little cool. With that dry air, we cool off pretty rapidly once the sun goes down. Madison dropped to 37. Camp Douglas was actually down to 26 degrees. And you can see many locations were in the 30s. Rhinelander down to freezing. A few places even in the upper 20s in upper Michigan, parts of lower Michigan. But to the west, winds already starting to come out of the south. Temperatures mainly in the 40s and 50s. And that's more typical of what we're going to start seeing over the next couple of days. And those high temperatures are going to go up as well. 77 tomorrow, 81 on Sunday, and by the middle of next week, still looking for high temperatures around 90 for both Wednesday and Thursday. And even behind a cold front, we drop only into the middle 80s by Saturday of next weekend and low 80s for Sunday and Monday of the following week. So the mild weather will continue for a while longer. And take a look at future track precipitation. Maybe a shower or thunderstorm Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoon, but for the most part, we'll be looking at very light precipitation amounts. The heavier showers and thunderstorms will stay up to the north. That's kind of the dividing line between cooler air that will stay up to the north in Canada and the milder air, or actually warm to hot air, that'll be across the rest of the Midwest, although that air will be dry. And you can see much of the country right now is precipitation free. There are some thunderstorms, in fact, some severe thunderstorms that'll pop up in the plains, but notice the jet stream winds coming in out of the south, and that's not bringing any of that precipitation in our direction. So for the time being, we're going to stick with that dry forecast. Planning your night across Dane County, look for mostly clear skies. Low temperature 43 in Marshall, 44 in Cambridge, and 45 in Mount Vernon. Across the rest of southern Wisconsin, temperatures low to mid 40s, 42 in Lone Rock. Camp Douglas maybe down to 39, Watoma at 41, and 44 for the low in Watertown. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, very mild. Like I said, high temperatures 77 degrees in our first warn 7 to 10 day forecast. Take those temperatures up into the upper 80s to around 90 degrees for the middle of next week. I don't even have a symbol in for the rain chances for Thursday and Friday. They're about 20% at this point, mainly in the afternoon and evening, and humidity levels will stay pretty low. Dew point temperatures only getting into the upper 50s on these days, and then they drop back into the 50s and even upper 40s as we head into next weekend and beyond. So the air dries out and we'll see some more dry weather with comfortably warm temperatures. As we check out our first warn traffic today, of course, it's getting into the start of the weekend, seeing some slowdowns northbound on I-3990 from the Beltline interchange up into the I-94 interchange. A lot of traffic, of course, heading north. Beltline looking pretty good right now. About a 15 or 14-minute trip either way on the Beltline between University Avenue and the interstate. 18 minutes from Sun Prairie into downtown. Heading outbound from the Beltline to Janesville going southbound, that'll take you 24 minutes. From Middleton to Sauk City on US 12 will take you 17 minutes, and downtown back out to Sun Prairie is an 18-minute trip this afternoon. That's your news through now first warn traffic.
All right, Gary, thank you. And a reminder, if you're planning on camping or hiking at a Wisconsin state park this weekend, you're going to need an admission sticker. The DNR offering annual passes online. It'll cost you $28 if you're a Wisconsin resident, grant you access to all parks and forests for the rest of the year. You have to display either an annual or daily admission sticker on your vehicle to get into the parks, and your email confirmation, by the way, will also count as proof of purchase.
Well, with all of that sunshine in the forecast, don't forget your sunscreen. Today is actually Don't Fry Day from the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention. Dermatologists say when you're choosing a sunscreen, look for at least SPF 30 or higher and broad spectrum, which blocks UVA and UVB rays. Mineral sunscreens sit on top of the skin and reflect the harmful rays off the skin. They contain ingredients like zinc oxide or titanium dioxide.
Chemical sunscreens are equally safe. Chemical sunscreens are sunscreens that have chemical filters that are actually absorbed into your skin. For these to be effective, you do want to apply them about 15 to 20 minutes before going outside.
Dermatologists say the best sunscreen is the one you will use, but creams or lotions are best for the initial application to make sure that nothing is missed. Coming up next at 5, it's something a paralyzed man in Switzerland never thought he'd be able to do again. how new technology is helping him walk when we return.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
A man paralyzed in a motorbike accident more than a decade ago can now walk again.
Researchers in Switzerland developed technology that linked his brain and his spinal cord. Meg Terrell has the story.
Hertjan Oskam was unable to take a single step after a spinal cord injury left him paralyzed more than a decade ago. But now he can stand up and walk, even over tough terrain, and go upstairs. Technology is turning Oskam's thoughts into actions. Electrodes implanted over his brain collect signals from the region that controls movements. A computer analyzes them to predict how he wants to move, and then messages electrodes implanted in his spinal cord that allow him to make those movements.
I only have to think about the movement, and I can start and stop.
While electrical stimulation has helped other paralyzed patients walk again, they've had to turn on implants that send a continuous signal to their spinal cord. Oskam's success is documented in a new scientific paper in the journal Nature. He was the first participant in a clinical trial for the technology, and researchers are hopeful about future possibilities. He says he can walk about 110 yards depending on the day, a little more than a football field. He can also stand without supporting himself with his hands for a few minutes and is looking forward to gaining even more function. Meg Terrell reporting.
We'll get a final check on your first warn forecast when we come back.
This is usually a pressure forecast for Gary, this first unofficial start of summer, but this is a piece of cake for you.
I just hand you the clicker here. You can do
Even
it.
I could do this one.
Well, let's take a look at the pictures there. There's the live view from the WISC Skycam. Where are the clouds? Don't see them on the Platteville Queen Bee Radio Skycam either. That's looking pretty nice. And take a look at those temperatures. Only near Lake Michigan is it in the 60s. Everybody else in the 70s, and it'll be even warmer the next few days.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll be back in 30 minutes for News 3 Now at 6.